Oh, hi there. I've not made a hockey video in the hockey room for quite some time. Actually, there's a reason for that, which I won't get into. But anyway, I'd prefer to make them in here. It's just it's better area for making videos on hockey and being able to show my jersey while I'm making them. Anyway, I read a report earlier that Nate Schmidt of the Las Vegas Golden Knights had tested positive on a microscopic level of a banned substance. I always watch the hockey guy and see, what he has to say about it, if he's heard about it. As I told you, there actually was a conspiracy theory, a few days ago that I chose not to make a video on because I just, I don't operate that way. I want to create my own content and my own take on things, and I don't take free handouts. Let's just straighten that out a little bit. Alright. Okay, so get this. It's the same simplistic narrative in regards to how the league treats this problem. 0 tolerance, 20-game suspension. And I agree with it. And, a lot of people go, well, that's going to hurt the Las Vegas Golden Knights because he was a good defenseman. I really like that he can get points. That's important to me, that a defenseman, can pull in points. And that's something, a lot of people don't really think about. And it's not just for entertainment value. It's, the fact that they can go out there and score a pinch goal if they need to. Anyway, the thing is, I don't believe whatever this banned substance was that Nate Schmidt had in his system was the fault of his trainers. The hockey guy kind of came along and assumed it was, and it most certainly would be true in times past where hockey players have, unbeknownst to them, taken performance-enhancing illegal drugs without their knowledge, because trainers had given it to them under some, NHL political maneuvering where they figured they could get away with taking it or whatever. Because what happens behind those closed doors, we don't know. And there are different factions that are operating within the NHL. It's not one single unit, one single cohesion unit. That's just not what it is. No organization is, nor should it be. You get the guy like Gary Bettman who does his thing, but the NHL it's a big organization, and there are things about it that guys like Gary Bettman, Don Cherry, you name it, are not involved in, because that's just an aspect of the NHL that there's too much going on for them to possibly know all about. That's understandable. And I don't think a trainer made that mistake of, prescribing him, or, this is all hypotheticals. At this point, I think it is good news. I mean, there have been many a time before in NHL history where, most certainly in pro baseball, we all remember Jerry Maguire. Remember him? Big home run guy, total cheat. Lance Armstrong, total cheat. I mean, guys don't cheat like that anymore, I would hope. But it might be different rules for different fools in that situation. We really don't know. And, Nate Schmidt, at first, I hadn't really heard his name too often, so I figured, well, he must be a somewhat young guy. And he is, at 27 years of age. And also, he's been conditioned into a hockey style of thinking from, his earlier childhood. Everybody does in whatever profession there is. You just sort of get used to whatever work environment, or in this case a sports environment, that you're in, and that's just how you're trained. It doesn't mean you're dumb, but it means there are a lot of things you're ignorant about and you're a dumbass about. And the thing about the NHL that a lot of people don't know is that these people, they're not, living in a bunker, and, you know, receiving their food within, you know, a mansion guarded by 100 people. You know, it's not exactly like that. I'm sure Sidney Crosby has an in-depth, you know, security force, but a lot of NHL players, especially the ones that don't make the big bucks, you know, they know a way how to be low-key. And the thing is, there is a possibility this could have gotten into his system unbeknownst to him. Like, they have their usual hangouts, like, and they probably have their own private grocery stores, liquor stores, and, you know, other places where they go to where it's a specialized person that they're seeing rather than just a random. But, you know, even NHL players like, you know, a bit of randomness and things like that, and that's why you may see one out in the public. Not very often, but every now and then. You know, it sort of brings in kind of a more human aspect to things. And to be honest with you, like, especially with a guy like Nate Schmidt, not that many people are going to recognize him. To be honest, if I ran into him on the street, I would not have recognized him as an NHL player. And, you know, that is the reality, is that unless they're Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid or Wayne Gretzky, like, most people, even if they watch hockey, don't know it that in depth that they could 100% guaranteed go, that's Nate Schmidt walking across here. I know I couldn't. I know what he looks like, but guess what? I'm not going to say a doppelganger, but you know, someone who looks similar enough to him, I might go, oh, it's just a random person. Unless they have distinct facial features that indicate who they are, like if they were Mark Messier or something like that. Anyway, and my point in bringing that in is I live in Vancouver, and I happen to know that one Taylor Pilot, he used to play with Vancouver Canucks. Big guy, kind of slow, never really got the points going. I think he ended up with the Rangers, retired quietly. He used to eat at Vera's Burger. There was a particular Vera's Burger that he used to eat at. And, you know, obviously the people who worked there were very respectful and things like that, and that's why he kept going there. But he would go there on more than one occasion because they want some degree of normalcy. And, you know, you can't blame an NHL player for wanting that. You know, you don't want to be surrounded by sycophants all the time. You don't want to be surrounded by people who are pulling you away from what regular life can be like. So this is why I don't think it was a trainer. I think it could have been anything. It could have been, you know, him pushing the button on a crosswalk. It could have been anything, because, like, there are things out there that are so potent and so strong that if they go to touch it, you know, anyone goes to touch it and then touch their mouth afterwards, or they go to eat afterwards, or whatever, or probably even use the washroom too, or definitely actually, that it will affect them. And even so, the league never specified on what that substance was. I don't blame him for doing that. That's just, you know, that's just the way they should do it. So it could have been anything. And, you know, the hockey guy mentioned steroids. Well, they're not, you know, there's a lot of that sort of stuff. It's, you know, it's not as clear cut as it used to be, where someone's like, they're on steroids, that's what it is. There's a lot of banned substances. It's not just one. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't even know what they are, but there are a lot of them. And, you know, a lot of them you don't need a prescription for, actually. You can just go to a Popeyes muscle, you know, enhancer supplement place. And I'm sure a lot of the stuff in there is banned. But the thing is, any NHL player will have somebody looking over their shoulder at pretty much 24 hours a day. There's no getting around it, especially a guy like Sidney Crosby or any of those types, the Alex Ovechkins, you name it. They're just worth too much money, And the thing is, Nate Schmidt is making two plus million. He's likely to make more when he signs the next contract. The thing is, somebody will have interest, and I don't believe he accidentally picked up whatever it was. I think somebody plotted against him. Maybe he wanted to ride the bus. Maybe he went, ooh, it'd be nice to feel like a normal person and ride the bus. No one's going to recognize me, or odds are they're not. And, you know, they have their ways of dealing that. If someone does recognize them, they can go, I'm just gonna disappear. Kind of like Homer into the bushes kind of thing. And I don't blame them for that. They don't want a flash mob of, you know, zombie, sycophantic, random people in front of them. I mean, I'm not going to say it gets as hairy as it used to, but situations like that, and probably haven't been reported, I don't know, but, you know, they have been awkward for hockey players. Okay, so there's that aspect to it. I don't believe it was a trainer that accidentally gave him anything. And there are other factors too, like, as I said, about them wanting to live a normal life and things like that. They all got social media accounts. They all want to put their 2 cents into everything. You don't directly hear what their opinions on certain things are, but everyone's got an opinion, and they should be able to voice it if they're not, you know, crazy or something. And you're not saying that Nate Schmidt would be, but you know, that might have pissed somebody off in the higher echelon of the NHL, and you know, maybe he has nothing in his system. Maybe they just use that as an excuse to ban him for 20 days or 20 games because they didn't like his opinion on something. I mean, how is Nate Schmidt supposed to be able to say, no, you're wrong, other than turning to a specialist who can, you know, lie right to his face? He's 27 years old, man. I mean, a lot of people go, oh, you're a full-grown adult, and you are, but if you think you can't be lied to when you're 27 as opposed to 40 and not notice the difference, you're wrong. When you're 40 and you're being lied to, your odds are you'll know it a lot better than a 27-year-old. That 10 years makes a difference, for say. So you know, Nate Schmidt is probably surrounded by sycophants. And Nate Schmidt may have done something else that pissed the NHL off, and they just use that as an excuse. I mean, quite often, I would suspect that players who have gotten injured were not injured at all in any way. It was just their way and the NHL's way of removing them from the game for X amount of time, whether it's a few weeks, few months, for whatever reason. And that may be to prop up one of the prospects. And you may go, well, why wouldn't a team want their best players out there? Well, there's multiple reasons for everything. You know, the prospects deserve some ice time. You don't want to wear out your superstars. And, you know, a lot of people really want to get into the NHL. And it's not totally fair that, you know, some players hog 20 minutes of ice time when, you know, there are guys who are just as good as them. I made videos about that, going, there are probably 1,000 guys in the minor leagues who are as good as Sidney Crosby around the world. And people go, oh, and you have names. I don't have names. You can't look up those names on the Google. That is a secret, because if they're worth a lot of money, they don't want you to know nothing about it until they start cashing in on it. So there may be a player in Russia who's coming his way to the NHL or whatever, a player from Sweden, and hasn't made the money yet. Guess what? If they haven't made the money yet, then they don't want you to know nothing about it. Because then you'll go, hey man, why don't you help me out? And no, they don't want that. That's just business. Not that any, most, 99.9% of NHL hockey fans watch what they see on the television and think that that makes them an expert. And I go, well, okay, that's good to know all that sort of stuff, but that doesn't make you an expert by any stretch of the imagination. And as I said, because as an organization as a whole, it is not one single unit cohesion. There are many departments doing different things all at once, and you would just be like, whoa, I don't even know what's going on here if you try to learn all of that sort of stuff. like a guy like Gary Bettman probably has a general idea what everyone does, but there's just too much going on. Especially with 31 teams, 32 coming up. It can't be done. So, you know, there's very little video evidence of Nate Schmidt talking about this. I'm sure there's an interview or whatever, a quick one. But are you going to see that specialist talking, you know, in his defense, and the NHL saying, look, we found this substance in his blah, 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 in his system, and there's a tribunal and things like that? No, none of that's going to be available to the common everyday NHL hockey fan schmuck. It just isn't. And, you know, when that much information is taken away, and it's taken away for obvious reasons, because if you're not involved in the organization, you're not trusted to keep your mouth shut about the organization, and there's potential for a lot of money to be made, you're going to get the butt end of the stick. The only thing is, I just don't like how much of the butt end of the stick people get. We're treated like we're completely retarded or something like that, and I'd like to think I'm not completely retarded. So anyway, to summarize, I don't think this is Nate Schmidt's fault. I agree that the amount that was in him probably didn't alter his performance in any way, and his pride wouldn't allow him to admit it even if it did. However, there are like dangerous things out there that really, it only does take a grain of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool to cause a problem. Usually it's a bad thing, but you know, there are actually things like that out there that are kind of scary. Never mind about that though. Like, I guarantee you there's, my imagination is just, it's too much. Anyway, Nate Schmidt, he's going to return to the NHL after the 20 games, and this likely won't affect his career. Because remember, NHL's a bit of a gambling organization. That's just the way it is. They bet their on their teams, their players, the conferences, all that sort of stuff. That's all gambled away, and I don't just mean you know, like sports bars and things like that. I mean like actual people that matter, putting in real money. I mean, the guys put in the hockey pool, you know, $5 each for the hockey pool. Yeah, that's good for you, but do you think that puts you in the upper echelon just because you have a guy who's within the hockey pool watching all the games? No. There are people out there that, you know, gamble like $100,000 that a player is going to do well in whatever specific aspect, or that they're betting $1 million that in the Stanley Cup final, one of two teams is going to win. And you know, Vegas, as we all know, is a gambling city. So the Vegas Golden Knights losing, and you know, people from Vegas would be predisposed to you know, gambling for the Vegas Golden Knights. That will have made a number of very stupid people very, very angry that they lost. That's just the reality. And I mean, there always has to be a winner and a loser in the Stanley Cup final. And this year, it was the Las Vegas Golden Knights. But the thing is, the Golden Knights were a tremendous success. And I said this before, especially when I wanted them to lose against Winnipeg, that it doesn't matter if their season doesn't go any further. Their franchise has already had a successful season, and I just don't have the time or patience to listen to idiots who go, well, they didn't win the Stanley Cup, therefore they just lost, plain and simple. No, you're narrow-minded and stupid. Like, really stupid. Anyway, I think Nate Schmidt's innocent. I don't think it was a trainer that gave it to him. It could have been from anywhere. I mean, just as I said, it's kind of like those Ecuadorian tree frogs, in the sense that all you have to do is touch one, and then, you know, you forget about it, and, you know, obviously it won't be a visible thing here because we don't have Ecuadorian tree frogs. And, you know, you go to rub your eye or something because you got an allergy. or, you know, putting your finger in your ear or anything. Or there probably is one where if you're sweating somewhat, you go to rub your neck, and that may be enough. It may be that strong. And the thing is, okay, maybe that is, like, it's beyond our capability at this point. No human knows how to create such a thing. But there are people working on it. And you won't have any idea if they're capable of doing that or not, because they all keep it a shroud of mystery. So, you know, and people actually aren't very good at inventing things. But you go deep enough into the Ecuadorian jungles or the jungles of Panama or whatever, and you may just find something in there, like a plant or some sort of butterfly species or something like that, with something like that, and then a human can synthesize it. That's usually it. Now that's delving into a whole other world, and here we're supposed to be talking about Nate Schmidt. Nate Schmidt will bounce back. He's not going to have the points probably that he would have had, but Vegas will probably still be a successful team. They didn't lose that many pieces, and you know, they got a good reputation for making it to the finals on their first year. And although I was glad they lost, and it's nice that Alex Ovechkin has a Stanley Cup, and you know, it's especially nice that he gets to go, hey Crosby, guess who's got a Stanley Cup right now and you don't? Fuck you! And Sidney Crosby's like, no. And then Ovechkin's like, oh, that's so sad. Here, let me help you. I'll start caressing the Stanley Cup. Anyway, that could go on for a while. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. I don't think a trainer gave Nate Schmidt performance-enhancing drugs. And it may be, you know, just a grain of salt in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, but that actually may have had an effect. Because, you know, there's some stuff out there that could be that potent. There really could be. And they may, you know, pick on a guy who's making $2.5 million a year to test it on, especially if they're pissed off like a bunch of gambling guys in Vegas that they didn't win the Stanley Cup and lost out on a lot of money. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, I shouldn't delve too deeply into the rabbit hole on that one, but had to be said. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Have a good one.